Hello, welcome back to Shok's Talks. I'm Shakti, and you have found my anomalous study hall where I hop on a weekly basis to share with you whatever it is I'm learning about when it comes to the UFO, UAP topic, or consciousness, remote viewing. Right now, I'm really focused on the out of body experience, and in order to have my own at will out of body experiences, not only am I reading all of the literature and watching all the videos that are out on YouTube about this topic, but I'm also practicing the techniques. And right now, I'm trying to launch myself into the OBE through the lucid dream state. So it's about day 38 or 39 of recording my dreams. And I've noticed an interesting trend. The first 2 weeks were really like me just kind of swimming around in my own subconscious. The dreams were pretty typical and pretty boring. And then they got a lot more interesting. And then I started to have a couple dreams where I gained lucidity. I was able to recognize that I was lucid in the dream, but I wasn't able to really do anything special. And then I slipped back into some old habits. I have a very active social life, and I went out for a couple drinks and allowed myself to partake in some cannabis, which is legal where I live. And it just muddies the psychic waters. I hate to admit it because I love a good time as much as anyone. And I love plant medicine, and I love everything beautiful and wonderful that Mother Earth has offered us, and it has its place and it has its benefits, even spiritual benefits. But one of the things I've noticed lately is that it does block my ability to have clarity and easy dream recall. Not completely. I can still work on recalling my dreams. It just feels a little bit harder. So that set me back for like a couple of days, and it was almost like I went back to square one. But I ended up getting back into my flow. And over the last couple of days, I've been having extremely detailed, very active, long dreams. So, what I'll do is I'll wake up and I will do an audio recording of the dream that I just had. And then I will open up the transcript of that audio recording, copy and paste it into an email, send it to myself, drop it into my dream journal, edit out all the little timestamps and weird typos that happen because of it being a transcript, and then I'll listen to it and read it and kind of recall the dream. And it's so interesting. It reminds me of what it sounds like when you listen to the transcript of a hypnotic regression. Because when I first wake up, I'm almost still in that space. And a lot of times I'll keep my eyes closed while I'm recording the dream so that it's fresh in my mind's eye. And as soon as I start looking at the world around me, I start focusing more in this reality and less in that other one. So part of being able to recall the dream is keeping my eyes closed and just getting it recorded as soon as I wake up. And then after a couple hours of going back to sleep, I'll go back and listen to the recording, and it's like, who was that person? I don't even remember her. I don't even remember that dream. So it's very interesting how this process goes. And I'm very curious about like just the functions of consciousness and noticing my thoughts, noticing what factors impact my mental clarity. I ordered some cognitive supplements, some natural like lion's mane with other stuff in it to try to help my memory a little bit during this process. But I have to give myself grace because life is going to keep happening and I have to stay flexible. And sometimes I might go out and I might want to have a little drink or a little something. And I think what I'm realizing is I'm not a perfect monk in every way, but I can keep coming back to my goal and there can be a balance. So that's where I'm at right now. I did have a really intense, emotional, nightmarish dream last night, but it reminded me a lot of some of the things I've been reading about in Preston Dennett's OBE book, because he talks about these out of body experiences where he's having this raw, unbridled emotion. And this is a kind of dream that I have on a regular basis where I'm just unleashing these deep, really big emotions in the dream space. And last night it had to do with power and control, specifically the patriarchy. There were a bunch of men breaking into the space that I lived in the dream, and so they were violating my boundaries symbolically, and they were bullying and dominating and taking what they wanted. They were hunting, doing this weird fishing operation off my balcony of the apartment that I lived in the dream, and they had gotten the code to get in and out of my living space, and I just tried to get them all out, and they weren't listening, and so I was screaming and screaming like a little kid, just losing my temper. And they kept telling me, like, even if you change the code, we have a machine that can run every single code until it finds the right one, so we'll get back in if we want to. They were just really, really dominating and really rude, and it was just a very emotional dream. But I have to admit that out of 39 dreams, I've only had 2 nightmares. So even though after last night, I woke up feeling like I never want to do this again. I don't even want to remember my dreams. Why am I even doing this? They're so upsetting. I felt horrible when I woke up. I wanted to cry. It made me feel like I didn't get good rest. And I'm like, why am I even doing this? But I'm doing it because my intuition is guiding me towards some kind of knowledge, and I'm not sure what that will be. It's uncharted territory, and I'm just following my own path right now. And my heart is telling me, just stick with it. This is going somewhere. Just keep paying attention to your dreams, keep working with what's happening. So, I actually had the experience of dream re entry after well, it was about 30 minutes of being awake after the bad dream. I went back to sleep, and I did not want to go back into that dream, but I ended up going back into a dream that had a similar scenario going on, but I had more options. And I thought about Preston Dennett's book, where sometimes you meet these aggressive astral characters or dream characters, and you have to learn to assert boundaries. You have to say no. You have to basically, it's like a video game, is what it feels like to me. You have to deal with the boss on that level, and that's what gets you to the next level. So I had the opportunity to deal with 2 more aggressive characters in the dream world who were, again, trying to press up against my boundaries, and I was able to say no to both of them and defeat them. They weren't able to cross my no, but they were very persistent. They wouldn't stop. So I think I'm going to go back to Tom Campbell's work here for a moment, because he recently did a really good interview on the Y Files podcast, and I'll link that for you below. And in that interview, he talked about these basically just consciousness entities. Sometimes it's the larger consciousness system, sometimes it's other entities. Sometimes they're just fear tests or little learning modules. And it sounds to me like most of the people who go out of body are going through some kind of training. And so we have to face the lesson, whatever it is. And sometimes it's not easy to tell what it is. But I do believe that the things that are happening in my dream world right now are very much preparing me for the out of body experience. I also learned from Nancy Trivellato that you will get dream experiences that feel like out of bodies before you have the actual OBE to prepare you. And I've had quite a few of those where it's like I'm dreaming that I'm having an OBE, but then something occurs that lets me know that it's just a dream. So I do feel like I'm making progress. It's not easy. It is requiring a lot of me, but I feel very motivated and very excited. And going back to the work of Tom Campbell, I wanted to bring up this thing that he talks about, which is, first of all, the way he describes his own ability to navigate consciousness. I think it's very important for us to know that just because one person does it this one way does not mean that we're going to have the same experience. Tom Campbell trained under Robert Monroe, but he went beyond Robert Monroe. He no longer needed to completely shut down his body to shift data streams and gain access to other dimensions of reality. He can do it with his eyes open, he can do it while talking. And that's what Bob trained him to do, because Bob needed to do these experiments with Tom Campbell and Dennis Menrick, where he needed them to travel out of body together. They were in separate rooms, but they were both speaking into a little microphone, and they're like laying down. Maybe they do have their eyes closed, but they're reporting on what they're seeing. And Bob is asking them questions through headphones, and they're able to respond. So that's very different than like the Darius J. Wright method, for example, where you have to go into full sleep paralysis. So I guess I'm bringing this up because for anyone else who's trying to do these things, I think it's easy for us to get limited in our thinking when we feel like we have to emulate what someone else has done. And I'm giving myself the grace to discover something new that works just for me, that may not be the same as anything that anyone else has ever done. I do expect that there will be some similarities, and I do hope that I will encounter some of the non physical consensus realities that so many other people speak about. But I'm not going to limit myself to any method. I'm going to continue to just follow my intuition and find my own way. And I have to remain flexible because my personality just requires that, and so does my lifestyle. The other thing I wanted to bring back up in relationship to Tom Campbell and his work is something that he said on that same Y-Files interview about psi abilities and about what you can do with consciousness. He said one of the easiest things to do is practice healing, because there are so many unknown variables when it comes to healing that you actually have more potential to influence the future probabilities. So, what he's saying, and again, I really love the way he thinks of energy work and energy healing because it's very grounded. He's never going to sell you on something. Like everybody out there who's selling a modality or a training course or whatever, they're going to go above and beyond to try to make you think that their way is the only way, or this works 100% of the time, to hype you up. Maybe they even are doing it with good intentions because they think it'll help you have a better experience. But the problem is, it doesn't always work. There are too many chaos factors in reality. There's too much randomness to have the same exact result every time when it comes to healing. However, there are some really miraculous stories out there. So, what is going on? Why do some things work and some things don't work? Well, I came across this old episode on Jeffrey Mishlov's show, New Thinking Aloud, and I will also link that for you. And the person he's talking to is named Marty Rossman. It's called Healing Yourself with Mental Imagery, Part 2, with Marty Rossman. And in this video, first of all, I loved Marty. I don't know who he is, but apparently he's some kind of doctor or scientist. I don't even remember, but he's talking about teaching people meditation, very simple meditation. And he just had such a humble, clear, calm demeanor. I was just instantly like, wow, what a rational, wonderful man. I just felt very at ease with everything he was saying. And it was so simple. It's basically exactly what Tom Campbell says in his own words. So I want you to listen to Tom Campbell's work, go and check out that Y-Files episode, and then listen to this New Thinking Aloud episode if you have time, and compare and contrast. Because in Tom Campbell's way of describing healing, it's just purely your intent. And your intent is going to do what it can to be accountable for the portion of that influence that is yours to handle. You know what I mean? So let's say there are three factors at play. Usually there might be 25 to 100 to more, but let's just pretend for the sake of the example there are three factors at play. One factor is me and my intention. The other factor is the system of my body. So it's like my genetics. And the third factor is my environment. Out of those three, which one do I have control over? I have control over my intention. That's the only one I have control over. So, using my intent to the best of my ability, as much effort as I put into it, I can actually potentially move the needle in terms of the future probability of me being healthy. Sometimes it's not going to work because the other factors outweighed even my best attempt. Maybe my genetics are so out of control that actually that's what ended up playing out in terms of what occurred. Or maybe I live in a very crazy environment full of toxins and all kinds of other stressors. And no matter how great of a job I did with my intent, and I even have good genetics, the environment overpowers all of that other stuff. You see what I'm saying? So that's why no healing modality is 100% going to work every time, because we're always working against randomness and chaos. But what this guy Marty was talking about is how in the patients that he treated, he would teach them a simple relaxation technique, and he would always tell them, you don't even need to command your body to relax. You want to invite relaxation, which already felt so much more gentle. My whole body responded to that immediately with a, thank you. Thank you. Don't tell me what to do. Invite me and let me see if I want to do it, and I'll tell you. I'll do it if I want. Basically, is how my body is, at least. And my body loves to be treated with respect and the recognition that our bodies have their own intelligence. And the idea of these meditations, it's just what the yogis taught. You relax your body and then you allow for natural processes to occur. The cells are all designed and programmed to take care of business and do the best they can. And if you get out of the way and promote that relaxing environment for them, they can do their job and a lot of healing can occur. And he talked about how it doesn't work every time. It does require some discipline because you have to actually do the protocols. And when he was asked the question of like, how effective is this? He said, it really depends on how much you put into it. And most of the people who put a lot into it do see a very positive result. However, not all the time. And he was just so honest and upfront. And I value that so much, because it's not doing any of us any good to be out here, out in these streets, blowing smoke up everybody's ass when it comes to like, just like this delusional thinking, miracles and positivity and the power of whatever. It's like, let's be real, because being real is so much better. And we can actually do some things. We do have some power. We do have some control. We do have some ability to influence future probabilities. But we also need to recognize our limits, because that allows us to accept what is and to face the lesson, even if it is that ultimate lesson that many of us will face, which is like sickness, and then of course inevitably death. Sickness, old age, and death, the things that the Buddha encountered when he went out from his little princely sheltered life into the real world, and that's what set him on his path of discovery. And I'm bringing this up because I have a good friend who I love very much, and we were just having this conversation about QHHT. She's training in Dolores Cannon's method, quantum healing hypnosis technique, I believe. I believe that's the exact quantum healing or quantum hypnosis healing technique. It's one or the other. QHHT is a modality that utilizes hypnotherapy. And we talk a lot, me and this friend, about how we have so many questions about hypnosis in general. And some people can be hypnotized and other people can't. And she was sharing with me that, in Dolores's teachings, she claims that like 90% of people can be hypnotized and 10% can't. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I have to call BS on that immediately, because first of all, I hate nothing more than when people take a sample set of reality and try to apply that statistic to the entire human population, because you don't know every single person. There's no way in anything. There's no way. There is 0% chance that you have met every single person across all time and space and that you can capture that data. So, first of all, don't even act like that's a thing. And people are changing all the time. So even if it was true that somehow Dolores had access to everyone at the time that she was here alive on this earth, the collective is always shifting. And I think all of us, to some extent, are suggestible, but I know that many of us are not actually hypnotizable, and especially at this point in reality, because a modality like that changes over time because of the fact that people hear about it, learn about it, catch on to it, and then we evolve and adapt. So it's almost like if you know what's coming, you can brace against it. You know what I mean? So what we were trying to figure out is like, well, how do you do this in a way that's helpful and beneficial to people without coming across as like dishonest or trying to convince them of something that may or may not work? And I was suggesting like, well, you can just be really upfront, just like this doctor. This made like with the healing technique he was presenting, it's not going to heal everybody all the time, but what it will do is it will calm you down. You will get some benefit. You will relax if you go through this process of meditating with a relaxation protocol, and you can increase the quality of your life. You can accept whatever's happening with more grace. And so it has a benefit no matter what, even if you don't heal. And I think the same is true for QHHT. You can have a really interesting experience. You can engage your imagination. You can let it flow and lead you towards something unexpected that you can apply towards your own healing and growth. That's always possible. It's about framing these things honestly in the first place. And I think the same is true for manifestation techniques, and the same is true for all healing modalities. Everybody wants to sell what they've got and patent it and package it and create a course and create this and create that. And I get it. We live in capitalism. And also, that's your art form in a way. It's like you created something and you get to be the one to promote it and to share it, a teaching modality or whatever. But what I love about Tom Campbell's work, going back to Tom Campbell again, is that he helps break down what's going on across all of these different modalities. Like, no matter what the energy work is, it's all about intent. And that's all that's going on. So every different tool set is just a different way of shaping, harnessing, or focusing your intent. So they're all valid, and different ones are going to work better for different people at different times for different reasons. Some of them might have a lot of momentum behind them if they've been practiced for a long time, or if a lot of people buy into it. And they're all in flux. They're all changing all the time, just as all the other factors in reality are changing. So we live in a very ephemeral, fluid, information-based system where many different things are coming together at any given moment to actualize the next moment. And those who are in these spiritual schools of thought are trying to understand how to have influence over all of that chaos. And it all comes back to the individual. We have the ability to make choices. So we do have some power in this reality, but it's all the power that is within us. It's the power to clear our minds, quiet our minds, relax our bodies, relax our energies, focus our intent. And that's our biggest, best, most powerful tool for navigating this reality system and all the reality systems. According to all the out of body travelers and astral travelers, it's very similar, slightly different conditions, but you're still navigating through intent. So, Preston Dennett talks about this in his book. All the other researchers of OBEs, but right now I'm reading Preston and I'm reading Nancy Trivellato, and I'm watching a lot of The Alchemist 369, Andre, on YouTube. He talks about using intent to travel through these astral realms as well. And he also gives the advice that you can create affirmations that you just write down throughout the day, telling yourself, tonight, I'm going to remember going out of body. Tonight, I'm going to have continuous consciousness as I go out of body, and using that as another tool to shape what's happening in your consciousness. I find all of this very fascinating because Even though we are in this physical matter consensus reality, we're still experiencing our own individual realities within it. Each one of us has our own perceptions and our own rich, beautiful, hopefully, deep inner worlds. So no matter what's going on around us, there's this whole other thing going on inside of us at any given moment. And of course, that's important. Of course, that matters. So I'm constantly working on understanding, maintaining, and keeping an eye on that inner reality, because that inner reality is absolutely impacting my outer reality. It's impacting the way my body feels, the way my nervous system feels, the choices I make, the cortisol levels, the hormone levels, the stress levels in my body. All the things that are happening physically are in direct communication with what's happening mentally, energetically, and in the feeling realms. So, as woo-woo as any of this may sound, it's extremely practical and simple. And I love and value the people who talk about it in really honest, straightforward ways. So those are my thoughts this week. That's what I'm learning about. Today I got to go see some art at the Getty Center in Los Angeles. It was a very beautiful day. Very beautiful architecture. What a cool place. A lot of the exhibits were closed, but walking around and experiencing art from different times, it really just it connects me to that collective unconscious, because that's where art is born from. And it makes me feel so inspired and so good to know that for as long as we've been here being humans in this reality system, we've all been creators. We've all been interpreting other ephemeral things through art and music and writing and sharing that with each other. And that's spiritual work, in my opinion. So it felt very in alignment with all the dream work that I'm doing. And I feel like I got to just soak in so much energy from the art that will also hopefully permeate the dream realm and give me a little more texture tonight. And hopefully, I don't have to have any more nightmares for a while, but if I do, I'm going to try to face them with courage and think of them as fear tests and see what I can learn and see if I can keep moving towards this OBE. These things don't happen overnight. I mean, for some people they do, but not for me. And for a lot of people, it takes a lot of practice over time. So I'm sticking with it for now. I'll let you know how it goes. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments. And if you're not already subscribed, please do. It's free for you and it helps my channel and it just makes me feel good. So I would love it if you do. And I'll see you next time on Shocks Talks.